Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Arrogate looks to rebound from his San Diego handicap debacle when he starts favored in the Grade 1 Pacific Classic. DRF handicappers Matt Bernier, Mike Beer, and I will also take a look at the Grade 1 Alabama Stakes for 3-year-old fillies at Saratoga and the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks for 3-year-old fillies on the turf. Nicole Russo takes a look at the Alabama in her pedigree pick segment. Craig Milkowski's Timeform US Spotlight is on the Pacific Classic, and JK's play of the day is the cross country pick 4. All this and lots more, so let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Each week we scour the videotape looking for runners to put in our online horse watches on DRF.com. Mike Beer, an old familiar face, returned off a long layoff and did it in grand style.
Yeah, not the first long layoff of Divining Rod's career, but he was back finally. We hadn't seen him since last November in the Grade 1 Cigar Mile where he just missed to connect. This is his first start since. A little a minor stakes race at Laurel on a wet track. This horse, he couldn't come back any better as far as I'm concerned, guys. He didn't beat the toughest field in the world, and he sat a pretty nice trip in this race right up on the pace. But I think this is exactly what you want to see with a good horse coming back off of a long layoff like this. He just absolutely swamps this field through the stretch. He doesn't have to work hard to do it. A perfect jumping off point for the second half of 2017. I mean, who knows where he goes? I got to believe that they should be thinking the Cigar Mile again this year for a horse like him. He ran great in it last year. He can come right back and run great in it again this year.
I know it's a late start, Cigar Mile, Breeders' Cup, Dirt Mile. If he stays sound, all options are on the table. He and Connect really threw it down in last year's Cigar Mile. It's a shame the Connect got hurt. He's retired. Divining Rod, boy, he can have a big second half of the season. Matt, sort of an under-the-radar horse watch this week, Delaware Park.
Yeah, nice little 2-year-old from Mike Stidham. This is Supreme Aura. We're going to take a look. This was the career debut most recently, just about 2 weeks ago. It took him a little while to find his best stride. Daniel Centeno needed to get into him. He was pushing on him for quite some time, but once he finally kind of levels off here, he's going to put this field really away quite nicely. The gallop out, which we're not going to be able to see, but you can pull it up in Formulator, very, very strong. You look at the dam side, you know, you've got some really nice horses in there. You've got, you know, Fleur de Lis winners. You've got Maximum Gold Cup and Arkansas Derby winners. This horse is by Candy Ride. Got a 71 buyer in the career debut. Not suggesting it's a superstar, but I think we're at that time of year now where start looking for some kind of smaller, lower profile 2-year-olds that maybe they can pop up in some of the bigger races that we get going forward.
That one was very professional in the stretch, and he was geared down late. A good-looking effort, to be sure. I'm going to show you the best sprinter you might never have heard of, and his name is Pink Lloyd, who just won the Shepperton Stakes, his 5th in a row. He has cemented his status as Canada's top sprinter. Let's watch his race from last week, and he has to work harder than usual. He's in those yellow silks, stalking on the outside. He's going to make the front, and they're pushing on him. For a second, it looks like he's going to hit the wall, but in the stretch, it looks like Pink Lloyd grinds it out. He drives clear. He's just better than these horses. What I like best about this performance is he changes leads. He gets a little bit goofy in his prior races. He stays on his right lead all the way down to the wire, and you have to wonder if the connections at least have the urge to try dirt, to try the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He has never stepped on dirt in his career. He's got a turfy pedigree. He's by that synthetic turf stallion Old Forester, but I think this horse can run a little bit, and if they decide to test him, take him out of his comfort zone in Canada, run him against the big boys in the United States on dirt, he'll acquit himself quite nicely. That's Pink Lloyd, nice sprinter up in Canada. Let's get to some handicapping. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day, the Grade 1 $1 million Pacific Classic, for expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races all week long, from Saratoga to Del Mar to Woodbine to Monmouth to Northlands Park. Head on over to video.drf.com, and for free Formulator past performances of the Pacific Classic, you can head on over to the Race of the Day event page on drf.com. I'm going to bring in Mike Beer. I'm going to bring in Matt Bernier. Matt, what happened to Arrogate last time out? I bet you could have heard a pin drop at Del Mar with his no-show in San Diego.
Your guess is as good as mine. He didn't pick his feet up at any point, and this was a field that he just completely laid over, and it did, okay, off the long layoff, coming back from Dubai. Maybe we wouldn't get the A+ Arrogate, but we would certainly get a victory out of him. And instead, he was off the board and he was essentially eased if you get a replica of that effort, we're in deep trouble again Saturday.
Mike, I was hoping for the excuse. I hate to say it. I was hoping for the excuse. Grabbed a quarter coming out of the gate, bled, mucus after they scoped him. Give me something. Horseshoe stuck in the tail. Give me an excuse. He just didn't feel like running? How are you taking a horse at 3 to 5, 4 to 5, no matter how talented he is, if he wakes up on the wrong side of the stall and says, I don't want to?
Yeah, I guess that's the real question. You think he can still run? I suspect Bob Baffert, Judd Farms would not be running him if they thought he couldn't run anymore. I don't think to me anyway, I don't think the question is, do you think Arrogate will run his race on Saturday? I think the question is, do you want to bet against him running his race on Saturday? That's your call. I spent a long time looking at it. I obviously don't like his last race. I hate that he was just a total no-show in there. At the end of the day, I don't want to lose any money betting against him.
Matt, you're going to take a shot against him. You don't know what you're going to get from this superstar. You'll readily admit if he shows up, he's going to win. He's going to win by big margin if he shows up. Heck, the good Arrogate's the best horse in the world. No disrespect to Winks, but you're going to take a shot against him.
Yeah, and the real reason I'm kind of against him, if you go back earlier in the week and look at his most recent workout, he changed leads really late, and that was kind of the thing. I had just kind of resigned myself to say, he's just better than everybody else. I saw that. It was enough for me to be completely turned off. I'm going to go with Accelerate. He won the San Diego that day when, unfortunately, Arrogate just completely bombed. He went out there, this is the first time with blinkers on, and he puts on an absolute show. Now, maybe he's a hair late with the lead change, but this is a horse that has always shown that there's some sort of ability. And Dan, you and I were concerned. He hadn't shown any speed in any of his races in 2017, and then all of a sudden the blinkers go on. It's also worth noting, he's 3 for 3 at Del Mar. You're hearing more and more people say that Del Mar may be a kind of horse for course track. This horse loves this racing surface. The concern's a 1.25 miles. John Sadler doesn't seem to be totally convinced. I have to be honest, the way that he ran that day in the San Diego, the way that he galloped out, I'll take a shot with Accelerate in this spot.
You always had the feeling Accelerate had a race like that in him. We didn't think it was going to come against Arrogate, but it was a big performance. Let's see how he handles the 1.25 miles. Mike, you pretty much gave your selection in this race. Yeah. It's Arrogate. You don't want to bet against him. There are some people, by the way, that are saying even money on this horse, mortgage the house.
Yeah, listen, I don't know if I would go that far. I certainly feel like if you can get even money on him, you might be doing all right, considering if you took that last race out of his PPs. I mean, what would he be in here? Be 1-9 again like he is every other week? He's better than these horses. I just don't want to lose any money betting against him in here. I suspect if Baffert's going to run him, we'll see something close to the good Arrogate. And if we see something close to the good Arrogate, he'll beat this field. Personally, to me, if I was going to play against him, the only horse I would play against him with is Baffert's other horse, Collected. This horse has been awful good this year. I think he'll get the right trip in this race. And, maybe he'll get the 1.25 miles. It's a question for him. It's a question for everybody else in the field outside of Arrogate. I think Baffert is running the 2 best horses in this race, but I'm not betting against Arrogate.
Undefeated on fast dirt is Collected. He's a really nice horse, and he's a bit underrated. Listen, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. If Arrogate shows up, he's going to win. I have to admit, I don't want to have a lot of money against Arrogate. I don't want to have a lot of money on Arrogate just in case he doesn't feel like running. Now, in the San Diego, I said to these guys, amusement. I think Donworth might be able to crack the exacta. I just thought he'd run second to Arrogate. It didn't work out that way. He ran second to Accelerate. I know Doug O'Neill and his connections have always had high hopes for this horse. He missed a lot of time. He's a bit ouchy. This is his 3rd start off the form cycle. He's been in chase mode in his first 2 races back. I think this time out he's going to let Collected. He's going to let Accelerate go. He's going to try to get into a good, steady beat, and maybe Arrogate doesn't show up. But to be honest with you, I'm not looking forward to betting too much money against Arrogate in the Grade 1 Pacific Classic. Let's go to Nicole Russo. Her pedigree pick, her race is the Alabama at Saratoga.
Hi all, Nicole Russo coming to you from Saratoga for Out of the Gate, where the feature Saturday is the Grade 1 Alabama for 3-year-old fillies. Let's take a look at the field for one of this division's biggest events. Now, the 1.25 miles distance is a question mark for many of the fillies in here, but not so for New Money Honey and Holy Helena, who are both coming off of victories at the classic distance. However, both are switching surfaces from their last start for this. So let's talk about their durability from a pedigree standpoint. New Money Honey is 4 for 6 on her career, all on turf. She won the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks last out. The filly is by Medaglia d'Oro, who can get you a quality dirt horse with the likes of champions Rachel Alexandra and Songbird on his resume. But he's also sired Grade 1 performers on turf, like Grade 1 winners Marketing Mix, Dickinson. So I tend to look at the female family for the clues as to which way his runners will swing. And New Money Honey, who is out of an unraced, distorted humor mare, has plenty of dirt ability there. She is a half-sister to a stakes place turf runner, but her two full siblings, Golden Money and I Like to Whim, are both winners on dirt. Their damn Weekend Whim is out of a winning AP Indy mare and is a full sister to Haskell winner Any Given Saturday. So on paper, New Money Honey ought to take to the surface. We know she'll run at the distance. She is going to be dangerous, I think. Now, Holy Helena has run while on dirt, ran twice on it earlier this year, broke her maiden at Belmont going 1 mile and a 16th, but she's done her best work on synthetics at Woodbine, winning the Woodbine Oaks and then scoring this 3.5 length win over the boys in the Queen's Plate, the first leg of the Canadian Triple Crown. No surprise that she's won on both, though. Her sire is the versatile Ghost Zapper, whose good route dirt performers include Shaman Ghost currently out there. Now, Holy Helena is a half-sister to the Grade 2 winning and multiple Grade 1 placed dirt sprinter Holy Boss. So the dirt ability is there, but looking strictly at the paper, your question might be whether or not she wanted to go longer, as Ghost Zapper can definitely get you a sprinter as well, like Champion Judy the Beauty, bred on this same cross. But Holy Helena comes from the Missy Baba female line, which is where she's getting her stamina. It's responsible for the likes of AP Indy and many other classic performers. So distance, no problem. Dirt, no problem. You'll have to evaluate how well she will handle the step up in class. Grade 1 action from coast to coast this weekend. We'll be back to talk you through more of it on Out of the Gate in a moment.
North America's first yearling sale for horses with turf appeal is coming to Fasig-Tipton. Selected yearlings by the nation's top turf sires. The Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase presented by Woodbine Racetrack, September 10th in Lexington, Kentucky. Where will you be?
Luxair Jets is excited to announce the new, most convenient way to fly nonstop from Lexington to historic Saratoga Springs throughout the racing meet. We are now offering exclusive group packages on our luxurious private jets. Each package offers a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you can share with your friends, family, or business partners. Call for pricing and availability.
Coming up this summer, it's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm. Every Wednesday through Sunday during the Saratoga meeting, Nicole Russo and I will analyze the best 2-year-old races at the spa. We'll go beyond the past performances and discuss pedigree, trainer patterns, workouts, and more. It's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm every Wednesday through Sunday at video.drf.com. Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for Saratoga's feature race on Saturday. The Grade 1 $600,000 Alabama Stakes for 3-year-old fillies going 1.25 miles. For expanded stakes previews of all the weekend graded stakes races, head on over to video.drf.com. Nicole, in her pedigree piece, talked about the 2 horses with wins at 1.25 miles. New Money Honey on turf, Holy Helena on Tapeta. Mike Beer, Holy Helena has a win on dirt, but you have to admit, she really has found herself over the synthetic at Woodbine.
She's upped her game in her last 2 starts when they shipped her up to run over the synthetic. A couple of fast races, including what Nicole was referencing, 1.25 miles win against Colts in the Queen's Plate. Now, I don't think that Queen's Plate was the strongest field you're ever going to see in that kind of a race, but I don't think that really diminishes anything that this filly did in that race. She got a good trip in there, but she just dominated that field. She was really impressive. 97 by her speed figure. If she can transfer that form over to dirt, she's going to be really tough in this race, and I don't see any reason why she can't do it, guys. I mean, she's bred for this. She's won on dirt before. I think she's just getting better from start to start for a really good trainer. She's a huge player in this race.
Matt, New Money Honey, winner of the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks at 1.25 miles on turf. It's Chad Brown. He does well with these kind of horses. This horse has ability, on par with some of the other 3-year-old fillies in this race. She has a dirt pedigree. What do you do with her in here?
I think you have to use her. It's a confident move from Chad. Keep in mind, this day, Alabama Day, on the West Coast, you've got a grade 1 on turf at 1 1/8 miles for fillies that are 3 years old. So, I mean, you could very easily have shipped her over there. Instead, he chooses to keep her at home and try the dirt for the first time. You made mention she's got the dirt pedigree. From a talent standpoint, maybe the figs are a little bit light, but I don't hold that against her. I think from a talent standpoint, she's right there with all these girls. I think this is a very, very contentious race as far as 1 1/4 miles is concerned.
Mike, you're going to go with a horse with a race over the track, and that's Arrogate for Bill Mott.
Yeah, I'm going to give her one more chance in here. We saw, Late sort of began her career with a big reputation, a really impressive debut win, big figure. I think everybody had a lot of high hopes for her, and it sort of felt like maybe there was a chance it wasn't going to pan out in her first few starts this year. It was nice to see her do what she did in this race right here, the Coaching Club American Oaks, her last start. She got a good trip in this race. A lot of things went really well for her in this race. But to me, it was just really nice for her to step up and show that she can go with the big girls in this division. And the horse that she's taking a run at right now is perhaps the biggest girl in this division. Abel Tasman on the lead, Arrogate down on the rail. Abel Tasman keeping it really tight on her. She's dead game up the inside here. She's going to miss a pretty close photo at the end. I thought she ran great in this race. I think she gets another good trip in this race. I really trust her more than a lot of other horses to get the 1 1/4 miles in this race. I think that's going to push some limits in this race. I don't think it pushes her, so I'm giving her one more chance here.
Matt, you like a big price in this year's edition of the Alabama. I love the loyalty. You're sticking with your girl, Mopetism.
Mopetism, I think she's been thrown in some really tough spots, and maybe she's been a little bit unlucky in the past. I think she was really unlucky in the most recent start. We're going to take a look at the Indiana Oaks. She was hung wide on the first turn. Now you see her spinning about 6 paths off the rail. This race is run at 1 1/16 miles, and I think the most important part for me anyway, keep in mind the horse that's on the front end was a Bill Mott horse, gate to wire fashion. I just love the way that Mopetism finishes, and Mike brought up the 1 1/4 miles. I think this thing could be a stagger fest at the very end, and there's a part of me that looks at this filly, Mopetism, and says, Uncle Mo on top, a Bernardini mare. I think the distance is going to be a little bit friendlier to her than maybe it is some of her contemporaries. It's going to be a giant price with Florent Giroux up.
She's due for some good luck in some major races. She's either been compromised by trip or by circumstance, as in that paceless Indiana Oaks last time out. 2 horses are entering this year's Alabama of similar races. Off slow, wide trip. The one that's going to get most of the attention is Salty from Mark Casse, who really missed the break in that race with Abel Tasman and a late last time out, and then it's to come very, very wide on the turn. The one I'm going with I think is going to be a little bit of a better price, though, and that is the number 4, Lockdown, Bill Mott's other runner. Let's look at the start of Lockdown's most recent race, in against Unchained Melody. She's the number 4, and she hopped badly at the start. So she's already spotting this field several lengths. Unchained Melody was on the lead. They swing onto the turn. Unchained Melody is controlling the pace. Look how wide Lockdown is going. 4 or 5 paths wide on the turn. It looks like she's really rolling, but that stumbling start, that wide early bid into the teeth of the pace, it takes its toll on Lockdown. She's going to run a solid second behind Unchained Melody, who's a major contender in this year's Alabama and could be the lone speed once again. But Lockdown not only had a difficult trip in this race, she also had a tough trip in the Kentucky Oaks, where she was pinballed at the start in traffic and angled down towards the inside in the lane. I think this horse has some ability for Bill Mott, and she has been working up a storm. 5 consecutive bullet workouts leading up to this race. She has sneaky speed, and I think her new jockey, Manny Franco, is going to be aggressive in here. I'm going to go with Lockdown, a little bit of a price in the Alabama. Now let's move to Southern California. Let's move to turf for the Del Mar Oaks. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks for 3-year-old fillies at 1 1/8 miles. $300,000 is the purse. Our Del Mar Oaks coverage is presented by the Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase. For expanded stakes previews, please visit video.drf.com. The Pacific Classic, the Alabama, these are historic races, these are prestigious races, but gentlemen, the Del Mar Oaks is the best betting race of the 3 Grade 1s we're going to cover. Mike Beer, you can go so many different ways.
This is just an absolute wide open race. You're right. There are so many different ways to go. You almost want to wait and see how the race winds up being bet before you decide who you're going to put your money on, because somebody's getting lost in the shuffle here. And, just to add a little bit more intrigue into it, there's just tons of pace in this race, too.
Matt, I think you're going to get a horse that's going to be lost in the shuffle from a wagering standpoint. A lightly raced horse, she's still figuring it out, but she's very game.
Yeah, I think Meadow Sweet has all the upside in this spot. Now, the problem with Meadow Sweet is She didn't really know what she's doing just yet. She's only started 3 times. She's already competitive from a buyer speed figure standpoint, but in each of her past 2 starts, she's had issues with the turns. We're going to take a look at her most recent start when she really had an issue on the far turn. You're going to take a look right at the spot shadow. She's starting to lug out pretty badly, and it's going to kind of, it looks like it's going to cost her the race because you also have Pacific Wind in those pink silks. She's going to also be in the Del Mar Oaks on Saturday afternoon. And you would have kind of given her the pass and said, well, you know what, you were getting out, you still don't know what you're doing, you're going to run 4th or 5th. Instead, she's resurgent and resilient, and she digs in here, doesn't let Pacific Wind buy her. There's just a part of me that looks at this horse and says, if she takes any sort of step forward from a professionalism standpoint, I think they'll go hand in hand. If you improve your professionalism, you're going to get a little bit faster. I think she's got to be viewed as a major player in here, but kind of like Mike said, find out where the money's going to go in here. I don't want anybody less than anything about 5 or 6 to 1 in here.
Kent DeZormo is so good. This horse lost the tactical advantage by bearing out on the turn. He never panicked. He just straightened her out into the stretch and kept her going. And she was all hard in the lane. That was a great ride. And this filly, she has a lot of moxie. She wants to beat you. Mike, your horse has been sort of a close but no cigar special, but she's getting pace.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Beau Recall. Hopefully this is the right spot for Beau Recall finally. And I do think that the addition of a lot of pace in this race could really help her. You go all the way back to her stateside debut. She was really impressive winning that first start over here back in January. She did it last to first. She did it on her own power. Since then, 3 straight stakes tries against Sir Cat Sally, a horse she just could not get to in the stretch. They shipped her over to Belmont for her last start, and they stretched her out to 1.25 miles in the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks. And she did what she did the best she could do in here, guys. I mean, she's at the back of the pack once again. She's angling out to the clear now. She's just not going to be able to make enough ground in the stretch of this race. I think she tried. Maybe this competition's a little bit too tough for her. And the 1.25 miles didn't really have to help her here either. I like her getting back to this spot, a spot with some pace in it. She can sit back, make one run. Maybe she gets there this time.
I like the fact that Joe Talamo's back aboard. He did not ride her in this race, and she looked like she was in a comfortable spot on the backstretch, and then just started dropping back, and it looked like she was going to be out of it before re-rallying again. I wonder if she's sort of a lazy type, and Talamo knows how to keep her motivated in a spot where she's in contention turning into the stretch. Conte Partiro is where I'm going in this spot for Wesley Ward. We know that Ward likes to ship horses to Royal Ascot. He shipped Conte Partiro in a pretty good race, the Sandringham, and it was a 24-horse field, and this horse was 24th in the early portion of the race, giving Ward palpitations. But as you see in the Sandringham, she's in the green silks. She's going to overcome a little bit of traffic. She's going to weave her way through 23 rivals, and she gets up late over a pretty nice horse. The runner-up in this race came back to finish second in 2 Group 1 races in England. Conte Partiro is a lightly raced horse, and I wonder if she's maybe figuring things out. She got some pace in this race, the Sandringham, and she is sure to get some pace as she returns to the U.S. in the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks. I'll take Conte Partiro, but I need at least 4 to 1 in this wide open race. JK's got his cross-country pick 4. Craig Milkowski's going to take a look at the Pacific Classic in his Timeform U.S. Spotlight. Let's hit those segments.
Hey everybody, welcome back to JK Play of the Day. Sorry I missed you guys last week. Hopefully Matt Bernier helped you out. I was having some traveling woes getting to Saratoga, but it was well worth it. Hope you guys have had a good Saratoga and Del Mar meet. We're going to combine the powers of Saratoga and Del Mar this week with an exciting cross-country pick 4. Kudos to Naira for putting that together. It's going to be the Lake Placid, the Alabama, the Pacific Classic, and the Del Mar Oaks, all in one pick 4. And I believe you'll be able to find that somewhere in the Naira menu, starting with race 8, and that's the Lake Placid. Law Cornell is going to be a big favorite here, I would imagine, or at least a tepid favorite off of her effort, not so great effort at Ascot. She was leading 3-year-old turf filly prior to that. I'm going to bet that took a little bit out of her. I feel like they might have put all their eggs into that basket. And then this is kind of the secondary thought here. I do think she's talented, but I think there's some opportunity, some equity in this bet if you can start it off beating her. I'm going to use the 4 Proctor's Ledge, who ran really big last time. First time Javier Castellano, first time Lasix, and has a win over this surface. And I look for her to run. I think she's been a really talented filly all year. I look for her to run big. I'm going to use the 4 Proctor's Ledge as an A-horse, and I'm going to use the 6 Uni as an A-horse as well. I thought that horse was impressive for Chad Brown in the Belmont Oaks. I would expect her to improve off of that effort, second time in the United States. And I think she'll just run well in this spot. And I think that we've kind of all learned the hard way. You got to use Chad when they're running on the grass, pretty much everywhere in the world, but especially at Saratoga. And the second leg, Saratoga Race 9, the Grade 1 Alabama. In this spot, I'm going to use 4 horses as A horses. Abel Tasman didn't jump on the plane to come back over for this battle. I'm going to use the 1 New Money Honey, first time on the dirt. New Money Honey is by Medaglia d'Oro out of a Distorted Humor mare. I think she's going to be fine on the dirt. Workout reports I think are going to tell you that she was working fine on the dirt. So I look for her to possibly be dangerous in this spot with all of that class. Unchained Melody for Brian Lynch, who ran a really big race in the Mother Goose. I'm going to use her. Salty. Unfortunate trip last time. I kind of missed the break a little bit, was wide all the way around there. The other 2 kind of got away from her a little bit, but I think Salty's performance in there was a little bit sneaky. So I'm going to look for Salty to kind of present a little bit of value there. She hasn't won since Gulfstream Park, so I think the bettors might forget about her a little bit. And then I'm going to use Salty, the 6 horse as well. So then I'm also going to use the 7, a late. I thought a late for Bill Mott ran really well last time against Abel Tasman. I think 1.25 miles is going to hit her right in between the eyes. Jose Ortiz obviously is leading. At least he's leading as of today, unless his brother Irad made up some ground between now and when you saw this video. So I'm going to use those 4 horses as A horses, and I'm going to use Lockdown with Manny Franco as a B horse. Manny Franco's been riding really well right now. Lockdown had a pretty impressive has some pretty impressive races. Hasn't gotten to the winner's circle since Aqueduct. However, I think she's one that could be dangerous, so I'm going to use a little saver on her as a B horse. Now let's hop on a plane and head across to the other side of the world, and we're going to go to Del Mar. In this spot, race 8, the Pacific Classic, I'm going to give Arrogate another shot. I really don't know how and why he ran the way he did. There's really no explanation. If he was short, he would have gotten 3rd. If he didn't have a good day, he would have gotten 3rd. If he needed the 1, he would have gotten 3rd. And the fact that he was just so bad that day, I can't come up with an excuse. I'm going to trust the horse. I'm going to trust Bob Baffert, and I'm going to trust Mike Smith, and I'm going to single Arrogate right here. I think that there's going to be actually a little bit of value if that makes it, if you can relate to that at all. I know that he is Arrogate. He was 1-20 last time, but I think there's going to be some doubters that are going to spend some money trying to beat this horse. And whenever that happens, I think there's an opportunity to make a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving you a 20-1 shot by any means, but I think that there'll be a little bit more value than if he was 1-20 and he would have won his last race. I think that the Del Mar Oaks is actually a pretty straightforward situation. I only think that 3 horses can win it. I'm going to go with the 5 horse, Conti Partiro, who won at Ascot impressively coming from off the pace. It was a mile race, but a mile race over there, it could translate pretty well to 1 mile and 1/8 over here. Their ground usually has a little bit more given to it, and so I think that Conte Partiro will show that 1 mile and 1/8 shouldn't be a problem, although she's only really sprinted in the mile one time at Santa Anita over here in the United States. I'm also going to use Dream Dancing. My past performances don't have the numbers there yet. I believe Dream Dancing is the 10. Dream Dancing was working with La Cornell. And yes, I know that's going to be a little confusing. I am betting against La Cornell at Saratoga. But when there's an East Coast horse coming west in turf races, it's something that always catches my attention. I think Dream Dancing is going to run really well. I've always been a fan of Dream Dancing. And then Beau Recall, who I thought ran really good in the Belmont Oaks. I know she was a California-based horse. She went out there against East Coast horses and ran well, and now she's back home in this spot going 1 mile and 1/8, cutting back from that 1 1/4 miles, and I think she's going to run really well as well. So here's the rundown. The A horses that I'm going to use in the first leg, the Lake Placid, the 4 and the 6. And then in the Alabama, the A horses, the 1, 5, the 6, the 7. The B horse there is the 4. Then we're going to go to the Pacific Classic. I'm going to single A horse, the 8 horse Arrogate. And then the final leg of the cross-country pick 4 between Naira and Del Mar is Del Mar Oaks. I'm going to use 3 A horses, the 5, the 10, and the 12. Good luck. See you next week.
Hi, I'm Craig Milkowski, Chief Speed Figure Analyst for Timeform US. This week we're going to take a look at the Grade 1 Pacific Classic at Del Mar, featuring last year's Breeders' Cup Classic winner Arrogate. If you look at the Timeform US Pace Preview page, you will always see at the top the race rating for the race along with some conditions, and you can click on the oval to get more advanced conditions. But here we can see the race rating that's projected for the race is a 128, and that's actually dead on the average for a Grade 1 race. So it looks like a solid, strong Grade 1. Let's take a look at the pace projector. The Timeform US Pace Projector shows this race pretty clear cut, that there's 3 horses that stand out above the rest. And as we're going to see here in the future, they stand out above the rest in all facets of the race. But here on the Pace Projector, the 2, 3, and 8, who are Collected, Arrogate, and Accelerate, are clearly shown in front of the others. But what's interesting is none of them are actually rated as speed or need to lead type horses. They've all shown tactical ability in the past. They just have a high cruising speed. Look at the pace preview page. Will show that no horse in the field is rated on their running style as a leader or speed horse. We see some trackers in Collected and Arrogate and a mid-pack and Accelerate. But no other horse has it either. It's not a lot of speed in here. And you can also see the spotlight figures. There's a clear gap between Collected, Accelerate, and Arrogate back to the rest. Nobody else is at a 120, while those 3 are all 129 and higher. Let's look at each of these horses individually and see how they stack up. Collected is an interesting horse. He was a decent 3-year-old. He won the Lexington at Keeneland before trying the Preakness, and something obviously went wrong that day. It was a sloppy track. And he didn't return till this year, where he's just come back and been very strong. He's only running a Grade 2, a Grade 3, and a listed stakes. But his Timeform US speed figures have been good at 122, 28, and then he exploded last time with a 135, romping by 14 lengths. The thing to note on him is he draws inside the other speed, so he's probably going to be forced a little bit to go. It is a long run to the first turn, so it's possible he could sit in behind a little bit, but with that inside draw, I think he is the most likely early leader. Drawn right to his outside is Accelerate. He's another one that's interesting. He was just kind of floundering around, wasn't really showing much speed, much ability, just kind of hitting the board without winning until they tried blinkers for the first time in his career last time in the Grade 2 San Diego over this same surface. And that was the first time he's worn them. He showed the speed that you would expect. He went right to the front. He was challenged after about a half mile, put that away, and just ran away from everybody, earning a nice 129 Timeform US speed figure. And one of the also runs he put away was Arrogate, who we'll look at next. Arrogate is clear. He won the Breeders' Cup Classic last year. He went to Dubai, put on an incredible show, and he almost looked unbeatable. He made his return in the San Diego handicap, and as I'm sure everybody knows by now, he was in fact beaten. And not only beaten, he really didn't run at all. He never looked like a contender in the race at any point. So he's the big question mark today. As far as the pace projector goes, he's a horse that, even though we have him shown slightly on the lead, I think he's going to sit back in third just off the top 2. I think they're most likely to run next to each other with Arrogate tucked in behind them. He hasn't really shown that he needs the lead. He did lead wire to wire in the Travers Stakes, but he's been better running from just off the pace since. The big question with him is just, is he in form? What happened last time? The trainer, Bob Baffert, doesn't really have seem to have any answers. Perhaps he was just short, and I think him coming right back in this race is showing a lot of confidence. But he's the one you got to bet around. He's going to be a short price. If you're going to go against him, my pick would be Collected, who's just looked devastating. He's won with ease. But if either of the other 2 go off in the 3-1, 7-2 range, I'll be taking a shot with them. Arrogate is probably the most likely winner, and it would be exciting for the game if he wins. But as a bettor, I'll probably be taking a stand against. Good luck, and I'll see you again next week on Out of the Gate.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Time for our best bet segment. Mike Veer, NYRA analyst, going to NYRA.
I got race 10 on Saturday is the maiden special weight on the turf. I don't want to really call this horse a best bet. I don't think this is your typical best bet. This is just kind of horse I want to throw a few dollars on at a really big price in the finale. I think she's 30 to 1 morning line. Star Maven, number 5, 3-year-old filly. She's a maiden on the grass. This is going to be her 4th start and 2nd off the layoff. I just feel like she's really improving from start to start from Leah Giamatti, and she's faced 3 fields so far on the way into this one that are just way better than what she's facing on Saturday. So I'm going to give her a chance in this race. Her debut going all the way back to Gulfstream Park. And we're going to show you a little bit of this race. She was way at the back of the field. She's going to come widest to the stretch in this race, and she'll just sort of race on down the outside. This is a pretty good field of fillies in here. Tepurge, the horse who's going to win it. Chad Brown just won back at Saratoga a couple of days ago, finishing 3rd in this race right there, the 6th. That's Inflexibility. She's a stakes winner on grass now for Chad Brown. And here comes Star Maven down the outside. She's just going to miss 4th in this race. I thought she showed a little something there. 2nd off the layoff today. Better spot for a weaker field. Maybe she gets it done at a price.
Matt, you are going to Southern California for the long-distance Del Mar Handicap and a horse that got cooked in a duel last time.
Yeah, it's in the post, really did. He most recently ran in the United Nations, and he and Beach Patrol, they threw it down. We're going to take a look as they swing for home. At this point, the damage is already done. These two have hooked up on the front. They've been throwing it down for the first, I don't know, mile and change, and they're both feeling the effects of it right now. The sort of heartening thing coming out of this race, though, Beach Patrol came back to win the Arlington Million last week, and can't help believing he was a bit pace compromised when he came back up at Woodbine, but he ran well. And you see bigger picture down on the inside. He came back to run really, really well in the Bowling Green. This race has come back relatively live. I think It's in the Post is going to work out a good trip in here in the Del Mar Handicap, and I think just as far as recency is concerned, I would side with him over Ashley Love Sugar. I apologize for last week. Hopefully we get back in the beam. It's in the Post.
I'm going to Monmouth, race number 11. It is the Violet Stakes, and I'm going with the number 4, Tricky Escape. Tricky Escape, I think, is in sneaky form where she's been compromised by wrong surface, wrong distance, and wrong trip. Let's begin with wrong trip. The Eatontown, 3 starts back. We're going to take a look at that race right now, and she is last down towards the inside in the spot shadow, and for a brief and fleeting second, it looks like this trip is really going to work out. She's going to spy a hole down towards the inside, and she is going to shoot right on through and gain a prime pocket position on the turn. And from here, things go awry. Remember, this race was won by Grand Jeté, who is one of the better turf fillies and mares in the country. As you see, Tricky escaped, bottled up, nowhere to go. The real running has already begun. She still hasn't gotten out. By the time she gets out with a clear run, she's not going to beat Grand Jeté, but I do like the way she punches on home. She's only beaten 2 lengths in this spot. After this race, the connection stretched her all the way out in an 11-furlong race at Delaware, and she was traveling very sweetly turning into the stretch, and that distance was just too much. Last time out, she ran on sloppy dirt, which is not her surface. A 9-furlong turf race should hit the number 4, Tricky Escape, right between the eyes. For low-profile connections, she should offer some nice value. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.